We already talked a little bit about it, but you're doing well. Do you have a good day today?
Not a bad day so far. Yeah, actually, I've been writing music this morning, working on new songs, and also here in France, it's the end of like the strict lockdown, so we are able to go and see friends and to do again some regular activities. So it doesn't feel so scary as it used to be before. So yeah, I'm okay.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Because I remember Charlie XCX saying in an interview that why she connected so well with you is because you guys are both workaholics and you guys just love working and working on ideas so much.
I never work now. I don't understand the concept of a holiday. This is how fucked up I am.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
I'm handling like 2 days of rest, and then the third day I'm sweating, and I'm like, I have to do something. So yeah. I think we deeply relate on that point. But I think also because it's not even. I think it's beyond just an ethic. It's just I think Charlie also gets that work makes sense for us
Mm.
in our lives, and also this is how we process emotions. I think she has
Hmm.
that same relationship with songwriting, and she's also super gifted and really humble about it, and it's quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can also imagine it being quite draining.
to work all the time.
Yeah.
Nah, it's resting that drains me. My brain just like starts to become really gooey. And actually, no, sometimes for me, it's really cathartic to work on a song or to dance. And I might be hypersensitive maybe, and maybe the songwriting just helps me vent in a way. But it's when I stop that I feel tired.
Yeah. What I thought was so interesting because where the album Chris is so joyful and so happy, your EP feels a little bit more sad, if I can say it that way.
Yeah, you can totally say it. I mean, it's basically opening with the line "People I've been sad," and I think
Yeah.
it's just like, no bullshit, straight to the point. And it's true that it's not the chapter that I thought I would ever write in my life, but some albums you think about them for a long time and you elaborate them. And Chris was like a project of a year and a half, and it was really thought through. And that EP was a reaction to things that happened to me, and I had to deal with grief, with heartbreak at once.
Mm.
I was like, might be a little bit too much for me. And the only thing I found that could help me cope again is the songwriting. And also, I mean, what I love about songwriting is that it's brutally honest. You can't really cheat with songwriting because then it doesn't sound genuine, and then you're lying to yourself. And the song "People I've Been Sad" has been the first one I've been writing about for that EP, and it just opened up the whole chapter, and I knew I had to address the sadness. I
So
couldn't escape.
People I've Been Sad was the beginning, and then the rest just came.
Yeah, I couldn't stop after that. I was actually still on tour. I was still touring the second record. It was last April. It was last April. It was a year ago, around a year ago, that it started to flow, and every song was a tiny outlet for the things that were just weighing me down so much. And I immediately knew it had to be quite fast and urgent, but then it escalated into this 12 minutes movie. So eventually I released it a bit further down the road. But again, this is just how I like to create. Then I had images, and I wanted to tell that story of that grief, and it had to be visual because I didn't want to comment on the work too much. I wanted the work to be this whole thing that like
Yeah.
people could, take with them.
Maybe a weird question, but were you surprised by these feelings that you were having? Because I can't help but notice that you just said you never thought that you would write a project like this one, a sad project.
Yeah, I think I was. Well, in a way, it's not surprising because I was going through so much. But I think I was caught off guard because I think the songs were saying something that I was not realizing. The songs were talking about unfolding and not dealing well with that, and I thought I was dealing well with it. I was touring still, and I was like, it's going to be fine, I'm fine, I'm going to make it through. And what I was writing was saying the exact opposite. So I knew at some point I had to cut the crap and really address that. And this is scary to be sometimes writing a song because you're going to be dealing with truth, and
Hmm.
sometimes truth is scary as hell because cannot escape it. And the shooting of the video was deeply cathartic. Like I don't know if people who never saw it would be like, what?
No. I think everybody watching this have seen it.
There is an opening on the roof, and it's a really deep choreography where I have to just rock sadness close to my body like that. And those are things that are scary but great to do. I think this is what I look for also in what I do. It's that zone of risking things, to just be honest with people.
Yeah.
Because
I want to talk about movement a little bit, because you love to dance, you love to move your body. I always wonder, when you write a song, how much does that play a role when you write music? Do you keep movement in the back of your mind when you write?
I think it does influence my songwriting, because I think, for example, it explains why, for example, I'm obsessed with a good beat and a good bass line. This is just like I can't compromise with that. This is why also I'm obsessed with bass lines in other people's productions, like Tame Impala, because the bass is just talking to it's like a beating heart. And if the groove is right with that skeleton, then the rest of the song is fine. For me, if you don't have a good bass line and a good beat, it's hard.
I saw you were listening to Thundercat.
I mean,
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Even people like Steve Lacy, they just get the right. And I think when you like to dance and you practice it a lot, you understand a lot about how a music should breathe. Because I think groove sometimes is actually silence, and then it comes back. And even people like Miguel, they really know how to, like a song like Adorn, it's just like a masterpiece of groove.
Yeah.
And so I think it does influence my songwriting, because I'm always searching for that. Groove is a bit cheesy to say like that, but something that, even if it's a ballad, I have to be able to move on it. And actually, when I start to move on the track I'm working on, it's a good sign.
Yeah.
When I have an idea of a movement, it's a sign that I'm getting there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's one song on the EP, sorry, I forgot the title of the song a little bit, but that was a more minimalistic song and less of the production heavy song that we're used to. And I was wondering what that song was like, because it was very raw in lyrics, but then the production was very minimalistic and less of the groove that you're talking about. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get
the Mountains?
Yeah. Yes. The more piano-driven song.
Yeah. But interestingly so, at some point there is still something happening. But this one caught me off guard. That EP was me being caught off guard all the time. I didn't have any plan. It's the first time also that I was kind of writing, like chasing after something that was kind of nightmarish. And that song happened to me. It was a night where I was feeling this. I was heartbroken as hell. And I just sat down at the piano and I was like, what am I doing? Who are you, like Elton John? But then I was like, let's go with it, because it was really earnest, and I kind of and also the lyrics are actually, as you said, super raw. It's not even about, it's almost a bit meta. I'm talking about me writing a song and grieving someone, and I'm not even trying to be clever or adorning anything. And actually producing that track was accepting that it would remain as such, really exposed and like that. But that EP, I guess it's a chapter of vulnerability.
And also, you sang in 3 different languages: French, Italian, and English.
And Spanish.
Wow, 4. Sorry, I missed the Spanish one. And Spanish, 4.
European chick.
I mean, how do you decide in what language you're going to sing?
I wish I had a clever answer to that. I have to be honest with you. The songwriting is probably the most instinctive thing I'm doing in all my life. I think the overthinking happens everywhere else in my life. Like, when I mean everywhere, I wish it could stop sometimes, but it still happens. Sex. But the songwriting is where I just follow impulses, and sometimes they're not even clever per se. And I think, for example, La Vita Nuova, I was working on an Italo disco production. It was, this really disco-y, almost a bit kitsch, and I was like, Italo disco, it could be cool to sing in Italian. It's just extravagant. I wanted some flamboyance, so I chose Italian, because for me, Italian is about flamboyance. And nada in Spanish, the word just came, because sounds so good, and it means nothing. In French, rien sounds less good than nada. And then I carry with it. And you know, those are sometimes really snappy choices I make.
So it was also like sound wise, like that it just sounds better. And
French people have a running joke about me, because sometimes they're like, oh, we don't even understand what you sing in French, because the way I mouth French sometimes is more rhythmical. I'm more interested in how it sounds to your ear than being like perfectly understandable. So in French, sometimes I distort. So French people always say like, when are you saying your song? And I'm like, just go, I'm genius, I don't know.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the album title, because it's based on, and I want to say his name correctly, Dante, help me here.
It's Dante, yeah. Perfect.
Dante Alighieri's?
Oui, Dante Alighieri?
I think so, yeah. It's based on his work, and the immediate translation of La Vita Nuova is new life. Yeah. Do you feel like you've entered a new life?
Yeah, but you know what? I was going to be even more solemn than that. I think everybody now kind of experiences that. I mean, I don't know. Even this whole lockdown thing, it just kind of moves tiny things around and shifts things slightly. But yeah, also I think for me, La Vita Nuova was at the beginning of the writing, it was almost a wish, because it was a will to let go, so I could move forward. So I was almost calling for it. And then we shot the whole movie, and it was really, really an experience of, because the song themselves, it was painful to write them, and they were addressing so much things that pained me. But then the movie healed me a bit, because it became this reverie and this beautiful collaborative effort, and it kind of, it brings hope still. And now I think I just allowed myself for a new life. But this is the great thing about my weird job also. I kind of I announce to myself what I want, and then I have to reach out for it. So if I write La Vita Nuova, I have to move my ass.
Now you have to. And you're moving on to your third album, an album about hope. And what I've heard is that you have a hard time dealing with hope. Why is that?
Usually I had a hard time, with that. But because I am a bit tormented. I used to also be scared of happiness. I mean, this is really classic. You're scared of it because you deserve it. Things like that. But now I'm just also a bit less. Also, I think with La Vita Nuova, for example, it kind of did a reset on who I am as an artist. I think it's the end of me apologizing for example, loving theatricality, loving narratives, loving transformation. I think I already was in that, but I was always slightly apologizing for that before. And now I'm just like, well, this is what I like to do. I like to create dreams and transform myself and mutate, and let's see what works for me. But I think also it's a process of getting older and more comfortable with who you are, and with being fluid, and with being, a theater kid at heart with crazy ideas. So the third record is a bit more ambitious, I think. It's the most ambitious thing I'm working on, I think. There is no apologies, which is great. It feels good.
Oh, that's so good to hear. I was about to say more ambitious. I feel like you've been one of the most ambitious people or artists in the scene right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, merci.
It's always like the whole package, It's like the video, when you perform, you're not just standing there and singing. You're thinking every single thing completely through.
True. Well, true. It's true. Maybe it's me saying that. I'm going to get into the monstrous zone of hubris, But I think for me, ambitious is I can't talk about it right now because it's spoiling. But the gesture is even more ambitious in what I'm saying. The story I tell is even in itself quite ambitious.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. But if I do, it might be quite exciting.
I can't wait. I have one last question for you before I'm going to let you go. I know you're a big observer and you listen to a lot of other artists and you really enjoy other people, their music. If you had to choose one artist or maybe one song that you're currently really obsessed with, which one would that be?
Oh, I want to check my phone. I've been talking a lot about that artist though, so I'm going to talk about that artist again. She's called Lyra Pramuk.
Never heard of her.
She released, I think, her album at the beginning of lockdown. I think there is a beautiful song. She's working a lot on. It's a bit like Planning to Rock. It's a bit like The Knife. I love that scene. Tendril. There is a song called Tendril.
Okay.
And if you really just want to get in the zone and experience, it's really transcendent. I like it a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna play that song.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna do it. Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time and for doing this interview with us. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait for the third project.
Honestly, I can't wait for it too, and I'm super excited. And thank you for having me, and see you soon.
See you soon. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.